It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in the danger zone on his third day of his beers from around the world advent calendar. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Very well. They're starting slowly. We've opened the first 3 days have been like Budweisery, if you know what I mean. So
as in not very good. Fizzy pop.
They've been refreshing, but they've essentially been piss.
What was today's? Because I haven't seen today's. You have sent me the other two.
Today's was an Argentinian number. I believe it's called Quilmes.
Okay, yeah.
It counts for 75% of the beer market in Argentina and is the same colours as the Argentinian national flag. It was quite nice. I say it was crispy, as it were. It was nice. Probably shouldn't have drank it. Shouldn't have drank it with my breakfast, but it's December.
Does anyone know what times and dates are anymore? I know the NFL doesn't, because they play games on Wednesdays now, Neil. Very badly played games on Wednesdays, but games nonetheless. Today is Thursday, for those who are listening to us on days other than that. So obviously me and Neil got the privilege of watching that game yesterday. Initial thoughts, Neil?
Initial thoughts is Frodo saying it's done gif about week 12. The game was crap. It's almost as if not practicing for 9 days in the middle of a season affects the quality of play, as the Ravens looked like they were following the Dallas Cowboys of, we're going to have an injury a minute at one point. It was not great. The Steelers, they were the most unconvincing 10-0 team since the 2008 Titans. They're now the most unconvincing 11-0 team I have ever seen.
Do you want to know something unbelievable, Neil?
Always.
Like, Washington are playing them on a day to be determined. I believe it's Monday night.
Yeah, best luck with that.
Right now it's Monday, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I think Washington win that game.
Oh my God, he sipped the Kool-Aid.
No. And I don't even think it's like a Washington thing. That type of 11-0 team loses a stupid game that they shouldn't lose to a team who are nowhere near as good as them. And Washington fit that bill tremendously. Do you know what I mean? It could be another team. Like if it wasn't Washington playing this week and they were playing the Giants, they were playing a team of that ilk, I'd pick that. I just think that team would win. Like I just look at it and think this team is going to lose 3 games. I think I don't see them go. I don't see them maybe 14-2 at best. I don't see them 15-1. I definitely don't see them 16-0. And I just look and think, if a team, what does a team need to be able to do? Baltimore ran on them. Washington can run on them. The offensive line in the middle's okay at Washington. Mark Bullock's done a fantastic article on that for The Athletic this week. No Bud Dupree. Short week. Ben Roethlisberger getting older by the absolute moment. I don't know. I think the team will beat them, and it wouldn't surprise me if Washington did.
It is, as we've seen with quarterbacks who've racked up an incredible amount of wear and tear over the years, it is a winning strategy to ask them to drop back and pass 50 times. That nothing bad ever happens when that type of workload happens on a 30-year-old body.
But then again, as you quite rightly put out, Neil, it wasn't like Benny Snell was going to make many people miss.
Jesus wept. If you go to Player Profiler, his headshot is a snail. I kid you not, his headshot is a snail. It's one of the more bizarre Easter eggs that friend Kelly has put on that website. Up there with Cooper Kupp as the White Angel of Death. But Benny Snail is, as I say, it's a round of drinks if he makes you miss.
Yeah, so not a great game. Great to see Bob Griffin back. Shame he didn't see the game out. Shame he can't throw. Like, he did used to be able to throw, right? That first year, he definitely could throw it, couldn't he? He could, but now it's like, oh my God, what is this? This is what you know. I remember the PlayStation 2. It was the most cutting edge technology. You should have seen what it could do. I was speaking to my son before and saying, "Oh, yeah, do you know what? There was an advert and they were talking about I an advert about Cadbury's Heroes and they had parents playing Street Fighter. His response, "What's Street Fighter?"
Well,
and that is the Robert Griffin. He used to be good, but look at him now, and there's loads of kids playing. People told me he was like what Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes is. No, he's not. He's an old man.
It was the two tweet sequence by Pat Doherty. Of one was after he broke off that 39-yard run. He said, "I've just gone full dad," of going, "Robert, good for you." And then literally straight away was, "Oh, Bob," after the sniper took his hamstring out. I think if RG3 had any lingering hopes of parlaying his snaps, the limited snaps he's got this season, into maybe competing for a starting job somewhere in 2021, that game ended that dream.
Yes, indeed. But that's enough on that game. This week we are going to start to look at free agency, wide receivers especially. There is a lot entering the free agent market, and me and Neil are going to discuss whether they should stay or should they go. Insert Clash song for the kids amongst us, and then we'll do our usual fancy stuff: fancy darling, fancy loser, and our team of the week. And my team of the week is horrific, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Well, but speaking of someone who started Derek Carr everywhere last week, the woe is me is cutting very little ice. So.
There's no woe is me about it. I am absolutely that. I knew that game was coming. I just needed it to be 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
I still haven't worked out what I'm going to be eating when I'm eating it, by the way, but I am perusing menus.
Of course you are. I would expect nothing less. No, Neil, let's move on to wide receiver, stay or go. So Neil had a really good idea this week. That's his third ever. I'll let everyone else guess which the other two are. He looked at the 2020 unrestricted free agent wide receivers and wondered what would become of them. Where would they go? Would they be highly sought after? Would they not? Would the teams who they are on now look to keep them? He has given it to me in descending order by 2020 snaps, which is nice of him. And we're going to go down them quickly and see where we think they will be, or will they be on their team more than less.
Salary cap information is courtesy of overthecap.com, I should stress.
First person on the list is Mr. Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions. Cap space $13 million. He's had 89% of 2020 snaps. However, he is 31 years of age.
I don't think signing Marvin Jones will be a priority for their new GM or new head coach. I say they've got $13 million in cap space. They have, I say, a little bit further down the line, Kenny Golladay is also a free agent. I would hope that they would prioritise signing Golladay over Marvin Jones at this stage of the game. I just don't think he's got anything left. I say 43 receptions, 503 yards, 5 touchdowns this season on quite a pass-happy team. I don't think he's going to be a Lion. If he is, it's going to be for absolute buttons.
I guess I don't really understand, if you're the Detroit Lions, why you'd want to bring back a 31-year-old wide receiver, however good he has been for the franchise. But then again, I'd be trading Matthew Stafford, so I'm in full blow-up mode with the Detroit Lions, so there we go. Next on most snaps, an unrestricted free agent is Allen Robinson. Let's make a pact, Neil. Let's get this guy a quarterback.
It's a bit late. He hasn't.
He's 28. He's not 31. So
yeah, but he's gone more than half his life without one. If we go back to high school, and I don't know, you'll forgive me, I don't know who his high school quarterbacks were, but I'm going to assume they're better than what he had to deal with at Penn State, at the Jags, at the Bears. This guy clearly would like one, but I don't know if he's going to get one. I cannot see him staying in Chicago. Obviously, they should try and keep him, but why would he want to at this stage? As I say, he's 28, 829 receptions and 5 touchdowns from Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky. Why would he want to stay there?
Well, he may be the only thing left on the offense, and the head coach and the GM should also be fired. At this point, I'm not sure why they're trying to win games. Well, they're not. They're playing Mitchell Trubisky. But
Did you hear why when he was interviewed? Matt Nagy asked if Trubisky would start again this week. Did you hear his answer?
No.
Sure, why not? Are we mailing it in now, Matthew? Is that what this is?
I don't. Yeah, this guy won Coach of the Year once. Yeah, cool and that. Not Andy Reid. Just breaking news for everyone. Not Andy Reid. Next, Neil, Will Fuller, who started his unrestricted free agency early by shooting up on PEDs. I think there was
Brian Cushing.
Yeah, I was going to say, not to label anything, but 2 players were caught PEDs in the Texans, and both of them deal with their strength and conditioning coach, Brian Cushing. Yes, strength and conditioning coach, Brian Cushing, who was found multiple times to have taken PEDs.
Yeah, a bit like asking a burglar to house sit for you.
Great. We have a love-hate relationship with Fuller, Neil. When he's on the park, he's great, but he's never fit. So it would be a massive gamble for another team to take him. I don't believe the Texans will, as they are already £10 million over the cap for next year.
Yeah, they have cap problems. We've seen that organisationally, the last regime did not value wide receiver talent, and they obviously just think they thought they could replicate the aggregate. Yeah, you can't. See, Fuller has been very good this year, but obviously the fact is his next team is going to have to also bank the fact that he's missing 1 game next season anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're going to bank the fact that he's going to miss games because he's injured, you have to bake that into what you're going to offer him in free agency. I think he will get he'll be one of the marquee signings. I just don't think he's not going to set the market because he has such risk built in.
Someone who would have, I believe, captured a lot of money 2 years ago, but these last 2 years have seriously hindered him, and that's Juju Smith-Schuster. He's 25. His team are $20 million over the cap, and it may be due to the fact that Ben Roethlisberger is a quarterback, as we've talked about earlier, but he doesn't look like a wide receiver 1 that everyone expected he would be.
No, whether it's a function of the offense or whether it's his own play dropping off, that he doesn't have that alpha on the outside occupying the coverage. I say he's played 80% of the snaps. He's got 58 receptions for 535 yards and 5 touchdowns. Not great. I mean, he's obviously talented. The numbers he put up in his first 2 seasons for his age were historic, but the last 2 seasons are not great. And we've seen now that if there's one thing the Pittsburgh Steelers can do well, it's identify wide receivers in the draft. So I don't think there's no real incentive for them to lock him down to a long-term mega money deal when they haven't got the money anyway, when they are obviously confident in their ability to go and find the next cab off the rank. And I think the fact that he's probably been penciled in as a pigeonholed, is the phrase I was looking for there, as a slot receiver. I'm not sure any team's going to want to go and break the bank for a slot receiver. I think he'll get a nice deal, but he's not resetting the market here.
Yeah, my fear would be for Juju is if there is a team going to get him to be their wide receiver 1. I don't know if that's a good thing. Like, and I'm using Washington as an example. If he was paired alongside Terry McLaurin, I actually think that's not the worst idea in the world. I'm concerned if he's going to somewhere else to be the wide receiver 1 and get all the target share. I don't know if that's his calling in life. I'm going to start skipping down a few, Neil. Get some big names to talk about. Let's laugh about the fact that at you more than anything else. Nelson Aguilar, 28. 29 catches, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, and making himself some money. It won't be on the Raiders, but I expect someone to give him a deal.
No, he'll probably, he's done enough with the Raiders that they don't have really the cap space to sign him up for longer term, and you'd hope that they're thinking that Henry Ruggs would take another step forward. They've also got Brian Edwards. His redemption tour has turned out very well. I mean, as you say, he's not blowing anyone away. His numbers are good. But he's not exactly commanded a lion's share of the targets. I don't think he'll be a Raider, but I think he'll get a nice deal somewhere.
Someone who's low on target share, or snap, sorry, mainly due to the fact he's been injured, is Chris Godwin. 25 years of age, coming off his rookie deal. 50 catches, 500 yards, but tremendously talented. The Bucks do have a lot of cap space, $30 million. Do you expect them to attempt to spend it on Godwin?
I think they'd be stupid not to, as they're getting to a stage where I think Evans' deal doesn't have that much more guarantee left, so they're going to want to put in place as many weapons as they can for their next quarterback. I'm not saying Tom Brady's done next year. I'm not saying he is, but I'm still the fact that in 2 years they're probably going to need another one. So it would make sense to lock him up for while he's still in his prime. It's, as I say, 562 yards and only 3 touchdowns this year is disappointing considering where he was last year, but it's been a different offense. He's been nicked up all year. He's only played 57% of the snaps. Insanely talented. If he doesn't sign a decent deal with the Bucks, he'll sign a decent one somewhere else, and he could potentially be it's again not going to be a market mover, but certainly one who's up there with the big guns.
I'm going to go on to one of mine and your favourites, Neil, and someone in my Dynasty League, so I'm interested in Kenny Golladay. Constantly injured this year, only 30% of snaps, 28. Lions do have $13 million in cap space, but I don't see him being a Detroit Lion. I don't think that he wants to go down that avenue. I think he wants to try and win. But given the injuries, is this a buyer's beware situation for Babytron?
I think it has to be as well because, as you say, he's finishing his rookie contract, and one important number you look there, finishing his rookie contract, and he's 28 years old. So he was an old prospect coming in. He's been, as we say, he has been very good. When he's been on the field, he has been as advertised. As people like JJ Zachariason pointed out very early on in proceedings, people like me, with less reach than JJ, but I was singing his name from all to hear. Contract year from hell, quite frankly, because it's decreased his value within his own team. We've seen how important he is to Matthew Stafford, but we don't know how important Matthew Stafford is to the Lions moving forward. Obviously, he's one of their most productive players in franchise history. I'm not going to say great because he's been good.
Yes.
But they've not been great. So he's been good while they've been good-ish. So, as we said last week, if the new coach has been brought in to salvage Matthew Stafford, then maybe they should look at finding ways that they can lock down Golladay. If he's been brought in to move on from Matthew Stafford, then again, given Golladay's age, maybe you think we're going to have to look to the draft. We can't really afford what someone will pay him. I expect, again, he'll probably, because it's a bad contract year, it might ding him a little bit, but he'll get a nice deal somewhere. But I'm like you. I think this is similar to Allen Robinson. Why would he want to stay there?
You're the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's ignore the fact you've got £0.0. You can get one of those guys we discussed. Who'd you go for?
It's hard to say because the Eagles' offense is just broke. So it's any one of these players insanely talented as the likes of Allen Robinson or Will Fuller or Juju Smith-Schuster or Kenny Golladay is. What's the point? I mean, the one thing that the Eagles could do would be a solid upgrade at slot. So if for some reason Juju Smith-Schuster fell and was still hanging around, in free agency for a long time and could completely object to that. The problem would be is then the Eagles will bring him and say, okay, now go and win one-on-ones because that's all we want you to do. How about a diversification of the route concept? Go win one-on-one, as that's pretty much what it is. I mean, one name actually on here that I think could be someone who'll get a bigger deal than he probably should, but it's a bit like the Alvin Harper syndrome. David Moore of the Seahawks has been very good when called upon. I mean, he's caught 27 of 34 targets, 331 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's obviously behind DJ Megatron and Tyler Lockett in the pecking order. We've seen now that they've decided that the Russ is not going to cook anymore. They are going to go back to what they do best. So there's never ever going to be a relevant third wide receiver. So I just think that he could get a decent deal, and he's only 26.
I look at the list and I think if you could get Chris Godwin or Juju Smith-Schuster to be alongside F1 McLaren, I think you're like, yes, please, I'll have myself some of that. Probably won't happen, and that's just how the way the world works, right? But they'd be the two that I'd be interested in, absolutely. Neil, that's enough stay or go talk. Let's move on to the fancy, and let's give everyone your fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Okay, we're not to laugh.
You can't say that, because now I'm going to laugh.
It is the year of our Lord 2021.
It is.
And I'm going to suggest that Frank Gore is not a terrible pick this week.
He still plays for the New York Football Jets, right?
He still plays for the New York Football Jets, and the Jets have decided, come hell or high water, that they're going to feed him. That is the only thing they can salvage in this season, is making sure Frank Gore gets so much of the ball, he's going to puke. He has had at least 11 carries in 10 of his last 11 games. He's also had 2 or more receptions in his last 3 games. They run the ball when they're behind. They run the ball when they're up. They run the ball. They're not very good at it, but they insist on doing it. The Raiders have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points. That's who the Jets are playing, by the way. I'm not just, I'm not schizophrenic. I'm not just finding out the Raiders. They've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs this year, and only the Texans and the Lions have allowed more rushing touchdowns to running backs. So if the Jets are to stay in this game, they will give the ball to Frank Gore. Not sexy, not exciting, and I'm not saying he's your RB1 this week, and that's it. But I'm just thinking, if you've got an opening at flex, or maybe you're desperate at running back 2, why not?
Let's be honest, Neil, it's a wasteland out there at the moment, and you don't know who's going to be playing, so anyone who plays is usually a good player at the moment.
Just need a pulse and a contract, pretty much, and you're viable.
Correct. Let's move on, and let's talk fancy loser.
An obvious fancy lose will be Alvin Kamara, as long as Taysom Hill is his quarterback, but I will move on from that. Do you know that Ross Tucker has the same amount of career receiving yards as Alvin Kamara has under Taysom Hill? In fact, Tucker technically has more, because Kamara has -2 yards.
This is cool and that, and don't get me wrong, it's, ha ha ha. Like, I was on course to win our league record for the first time in about a decade off the back of Alvin Kamara, and now they've got a quarterback in who you'd think would need Alvin Kamara, and they've decided they don't need Alvin Kamara. That's an issue for me.
There was a Justin Timberlake song quite a few years ago now.
You'd like to go F yourself. How about that?
Yeah. But my big loser this week, and it's almost a shot right across your bow. It's Antonio Gibson. Now, last week he was excellent. 15 carries, 20 carries, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. Doesn't happen every week. Not likely to happen every week. The Steelers are very good against the run. I know that they have been run on, but
they were run on by Baltimore, whose only thing they could do is run.
Yeah, and bless it. I say, I think your offensive line is improving, but I don't think it's good enough to stop the Steelers.
No, agreed. So, although I would hope,
and I would
hope on that Neil, I would hope we would recognise that TJ Watt was good, and put a blocker in against him, because it seems that the Baltimore Ravens forgot that on one of their plays this week.
Why bother? And I think if the football team, apparently one of the main contenders for the name moving forward is, obviously football team is still one of the candidates, but also football club has now been floated. Piss off. Really? Hello, Peter. I'm going to steal from you and I'm going to pay Paul. Okay.
I'm happy with the WFT, I've got no issue if we are the football team, because I like it when people say, and now Cowboys versus football team. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'll have it. It
stands out. I think as well, if Washington are going to be behind in this game, then it tends to sound more like a J.D. McKissick game. And while it's ironic that both Gibson and McKissick were wide receivers before they became running backs, they don't treat them such. So I don't think Gibson is a great play this week. But as you say, you're probably going to have to play him. But as long as you pair him with Frank Gore, you'll be fine.
Yeah, of course. Yes, it's 2020. Time to take a vaccine. Anyway, on that note, let's get on to our daily fantasy teams of the week.
Mainz and Dutts. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Boy, this is hard.
For you.
Do you think this is easy? Let's find
Yeah.
out. Quarterback one, please, Neil.
My quarterback, at 6,400, a man who has averaged 0.6 fantasy points fewer than Russell Wilson since week 6.
It's
Mr.
Kirk
Coupons. Yep, he's playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I say Cousins, from a fantasy point of view, has been very good in the last few weeks. He's been a tight end. He's been a quarterback 4 times in the last 6 games. Now, I know that the game script looks like it should lean towards them being on top and early and often against Jacksonville, but Jacksonville have not allowed anyone to get away from them this year. They play hard, and they are keeping teams close. So if that's the case, I'm not saying this is likely to be like a 50-pass day for Kirk Coupons, but I think he's going to have to do enough to pass the ball, and because of that, he should be able to put up decent numbers. 6,400.
I think the Jags are playing an almost chef's kiss tank job. Like, Gardner Minshew's back. No, he's not. He's still injured. Mike, carry on.
Yeah.
Just about lose. That would be cool.
Yeah.
My quarterback is Nick Mullins. He was terrible against the LA Rams.
Sorry. Few too many words in that sentence.
Okay. He is terrible. He's playing the Buffalo Bills. Secretly awful pass defense.
Yeah.
like really bad. And do you know, if I had a secretly awful pass defense, do you know what I wouldn't want to face? A Kyle Shanahan inspired offense. It's a shot in the dark, but money was required elsewhere. So at 5,400, I've gone for Nick Mullins
Of the Arizona 49ers.
Yeah, it's grim, innit? Definitely finishing the season on the come hell or high water. Did you see Rog on the show being interviewed by Tarico? It was wild. He was basically like, this is happening. Get on board or get out my way.
As I said to you in our group chat, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth looked like they were dressed for a day's fishing. They had that, very casual, it's gonna rain, but we'll stay dry. Look about their wardrobe.
It was great to have Tirico back on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Love the usual Sunday night crew, but love Tirico as well. So there you go. It's almost like he should never have left ESPN. Running back one, Neil.
Running back one, despite the fact that the team are coming up saying, well, he's a bit banged up, I wonder why. I'm going with Dalvin Cook in the same game, because if it goes well, he's going to eat. If it doesn't go so well, he's going to be involved in the passing game. The very worst thing that could happen would be if they get out to such an early lead and they say, oh, he's awfully banged up, let's give it to Mattinson. No, let's not. Now, your running back is banged up because you feed him the ball because it's 2020, but no, you must establish. Now, Dalvin Cook has been very good this season. We know this to be true. So I'm hoping that he can do enough here before he sits down to make this a decent stack with Kirk Cousins. Spoiler alert, this might not be the last person in this game mentioned in this team.
Spoiler alert, I'm trying to work out if Neil's got a whole team of Minnesota Vikings. My running back one is Dalvin Cook, because you know what? He's really good, and they're obsessed with giving him the ball 50 times a game. So I will be having Dalvin Cook for much the same reasons that Neil will. Running back two, Neil.
The running back to own on the New Orleans Saints, Mr. Latavius Murray. As it's quite clear that as long as Taysom Hill's there, they're going to lean on Murray more than they do on Kamara. The workload of the last few weeks has leaned towards Murray. I don't know whether it's the fact that they just want to run more power football with Taysom Hill, and
I just think it's Sean Payton being cute. It literally is Sean Payton being cute. Who are your most talented players? They are Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. So you say I can win a game with Taysom Hill, Latavius Murray, and a dog biscuit? Yeah, bravo, Sean. Brilliant. Win a game in January. I'm not happy with you right now. You're in my doghouse.
Yeah. See, I watched Dog Biscuit's tape, and he just didn't play up to his metrics.
I can't believe you picked Latavius Murray. You've talked about Frank Gore and Latavius Murray on the show as viable fantasy candidates. I hate 2020. I hate it so much. My running back too is Austin Eckler, Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots. He was back. Do you know that? Because he received 750 targets for the Chargers. I expect that to continue because that's what happens when Austin Eckler's on the field. But I tell you what, let's just go quickly now to worst coaching plays of the year for 300. What the actual F was that last minute of Chargers offense when you've thrown the Hail Mary and then you have a massive brain fart?
It's the obsession of better run the ball here. No. Clock ticking. It was the fact that, the press conference, someone asked him, why didn't you call a timeout? And his response, his honest response, and this, we can burn Anthony Lynn and we will burn him for many of his decisions. We can never burn him for a lack of honesty.
No.
Why didn't you call a timeout there, Coach Lynn? I don't know.
That's Andy Reid, 2000-esque. Thanks, Anthony. That's fantastic. I believe that is that a phone call for Anthony Lynn. Anthony, can you take this? Oh, that's my boss. He's just fired me immediately on the spot. Because then, after calling a running play, I then did some kind of crazy dive with my franchise quarterback to try and get him killed.
I mean, at least it was a stupid sequence. It's not the first time they've done it. It won't be the last time. But at least it's endearing in a way that Adam Gase lying in his press conferences is just offensive to me. As I've said in the past, there have been situations this year where head coaches have answered questions where I know it's a Zoom call, but I would literally log out and hope he could see it. Anytime that man opens his mouth, I would literally say, I'd just sit there as talking, you're lying. Lies. Lying. He's lying again. Lying. Hey, Adam, do you know how I know you're lying? Your mouth's open and words are coming out.
My problem with the Lynn thing is you are blinded by his exceptional performance on Hard Knocks. Yes, he seems like a really nice guy. He is an absolutely terrible head coach. They have now got one of the most exciting quarterbacks on their team, and Keenan Allen. Save them fast, because they don't need this again next year.
No. If you're going to hire an offensive coach, and I don't mean an offensive coach in the Adam Gase sense of the word, make sure his offensive background does not include the running back position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I'm not being funny. I am looking at you here, Eric Bieniemy, because you were a running back as well. So
I just look and think, my issue with running back coaches, it may as well be defensive coordinator, because what you're doing is established. Do you know what I mean? And we're not in, and that's cool and that. But have you seen the way that dude throws to 13? He may look like a prepubescent teen, but he's got a rocket and he hits 13 every time in the centre of his chest. Maybe you should do that more often.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Wide receiver 1, Neil.
Justin Jefferson.
Shocked. I'm currently shocked that you picked him.
6,900. Could have gone with Adam Thielen, as we know that all Adam Thielen does is score touchdowns. But he's still coming off the COVID. I don't trust him. While I think that the Vikings are going to look to try and establish and therefore let Kirk Cousins only pass when absolutely necessary, I think we have seen that when it is absolutely necessary, it pays to play. It pays to go to Justin Jefferson. So for 6,900, nice, I'll take him.
He's good, isn't he? Imagine you would have picked him in the 2020 draft. That would have been cool.
Well, why would it? Because he'd have torn a hamstring, he'd have broke his toe, he'd have some other mystery bloody illness or injury that befalls every single Philadelphia's player who manages to get onto the field.
Okay, that's cool. Do you think Derek Carr would like Justin Jefferson?
I think he'd prefer. Yeah, I think he'd like a quarterback, a wide receiver he can actually use. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with Jerry Jeudy, and I'm okay with CD Lamb. The Jalen Reagor thing, that's not okay. But there you go. Yeah. Anyway, not laughing at you. Wide receiver 1, Brandon Ayuk, Buffalo at the San Francisco 49ers, back, fit, healthy. I expect his air yards to be in the minus figures and his total yards to be in the 3 figures. But there we go, because that's how Kyle Shanahan rolls. He is 5,400 and he is my Nick Mullins stack. That's right, it's 2020 and my stack this week is Nick Mullins and Brandon Ayuk.
To be fair, they have used Brandon Ayuk as more of a traditional wide receiver than they would use Deebo Samuel. I say Deebo Samuel is an affront to everyone who hates air yards. Whereas Brandon Ayuk can be used in similar ways, but is also used as an outside guy as well.
Yeah, but an outside guy in a Kyle Shanahan offense with Nick Mullins as his quarterback is 2 yards.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 2, Neil.
Wide receiver 2 is Sterling Shepard. Now, he's questionable, but this obviously assumes that he will play. He's only 5,300. They're playing Seattle, in which case, if you only watched Monday night, you wouldn't know the fact that the Seattle pass defense is garbage. Shepard, since week 7, he's totaled at least 6 catches in 5 consecutive games. So in that time, he's got 33 receptions, 283 yards, and a touchdown. He's decent. Obviously, the fact that they are going to have Colt McCoy in the year of our Lord 2020 starting for them. By the way, I've seen some bad shit this year. I did not expect to see a team run the option with Colt McCoy. I honestly thought I was on acid when I saw that play. I was like, that must have gone wrong. I watched it again and I went, no, he's called that.
Yep.
Jason Garrett, ladies and gentlemen. So obviously he's no Daniel Jones. You'd think Colt McCoy is probably going to want to get the ball out of his hands quickly. That suits someone like Sterling Shepard, who operates near around the line of scrimmage. And as I say, the Seahawks pass defense, the pass rush was showing a bit of teeth, but I think Carlos Dunlap has now hurt himself, so welcome. It was a nice popping in. So Sterling Shepard, not a sexy play, but for 5,300, you could do worse.
My wide receiver 2 is F1 McLaren. Yeah, that's right. Means he's just totally through his Washington. Don't pick them out the window. 6,800. He's probably my wide receiver 1 in terms of price. Playing Pittsburgh, he is the wide receiver on the Washington football team, and he's really, really good. He will have a challenge on his hands against Minka Fitzpatrick et al. But they will try and get the ball to him and feed him as much as possible, and that will be Scott Turner's job. And I expect him to get a load of touches. And as I said, this is a weird game for Pittsburgh, and it could be one where they play down to their opposition. Wide receiver 3, Neil.
Wide receiver 3 is Corey Davis. He's another one of those contract year players we didn't touch on before. Obviously, we know that AJ Brown, if he wants a touchdown, you, me, the United Nations, Starfleet, no one is stopping him from getting into the end zone if he wants to get there.
I can think, let's play a game now. Is there one person in the NFL, a former college teammate, who could stop him? If AJ Brown and DK Metcalf ran from both end zones towards each other and hit each other at exactly the same speed, would the world end?
It's that scene at the end of Rocky 2, was it Rocky 3, where Apollo and Rocky punch each other simultaneously.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much what that is. Corey Davis has not been terrible this year. I say he has, for the season, he's got 42 receptions, 619 yards and 3 touchdowns. Does most of his good work away from home, just like Derrick Henry does. But it's weird, but obviously they're at home to the Cleveland Browns. He has had... Excuse me. Oh, dear. He's had at least 6 targets in 4 of his last 5 games. And as I say, the Browns' defence is not great. It's good enough. Obviously, they've got Myles Garrett back. But again, it's 5,100. AJ Brown does not get peppered with targets. I worry about Jonnu Smith, again, another contract year player. He doesn't look healthy. The only Titans tight end who ran a route last week was Jeff Swain. Yeah, me neither. 5,100, Corey Davis for me.
If I am in the AFC, I may be better than the Tennessee Titans, but I want absolutely zero part of them in the playoffs. That is too much like hard work. Here's 25 times where Derek Henry's going to run dead fast and they're going to get the ball in AJ Brown's hands 10 times. You got to tackle him, defense. Carry on.
Yeah, over to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, best of British, do you?
My wide receiver team is Mike Williams, again in the New England Patriots LA Chargers. Game's 4,800. Doesn't get as many targets as he should in this offense for me. And why I say that, because every time he catches it, it's a spectacular catch and possibly a touchdown. How about, I love Keenan Allen, great stuff, Austin Eckler in my team. Let's just share out a little bit more. Maybe give him 8 targets instead of 5, and everyone's a winner. 4,800, Mike Williams.
It'd be nice seeing him get a catch as well that didn't look like as soon as he's caught it, he's going to get absolutely wiped into the next galaxy.
That would also be cool.
Every catch is a highlight reel one, but my God, put one into his gut while he's running, not while he's leaping.
Why he's opened himself up to get absolutely destroyed. Tight end, Neil.
Tight end is Robert Tonyan. Again, not getting a huge amount of volume, but does keep finding the end zone. He's got 5 targets in back-to-back games, and he's got a touchdown in both games as well. The Philadelphia Eagles at the start of the season were, terrible against tight ends, but an awful lot of that damage came in the one game, or the 2 games really. Obviously, they had Tyler Higbee, who scored the 3 touchdowns, and then they had George Kittle, who had, I think I stopped counting at 37 receptions. I could be wrong. But since then, they've not been terrible. But it's the Eagles at the moment, and the defense looks good, looks solid, looks good, until it doesn't. And, we know that the passing tree is very concentrated for the Packers. It's going to be Devontae Adams, then Robert Tonyan, maybe Allen Lazard, but he hasn't looked great since he came back. So as a secondary option at 3,700, I really don't mind Tonyan this week.
I also have Robert Tonyan. Just in case Robert's listening, I hear that Jim Schwartz said you weren't very good, so maybe you should take that personally, because I hear that works out really well for Jim Schwartz.
Just don't talk to him.
Oh, Jim Schwartz wants to be talked to.
Yeah, you've got no link to this player. It's not like you coached him. You didn't coach his brother, his dad, his fraternity brother. Just wait till after the game with your. I tell you what, you're getting there. Don't fire him up beforehand, Schwartz, you dickhead. Would you tell Mike Tyson he talked funny?
No.
So go and tell DK Metcalf. Don't think he was as good as Megatron. Michael Jordan, and I took that personally.
Which is, I've hated 2020, but that's the meme that we're all here for. And I took that personally. Yes, you did, DK. Yeah, you did. Well done, mate. Who's your flex, Neil?
Frank Gore, 4,400. If you think that's funny, you haven't heard the defense yet.
Okay. My flex is Kiki Kuti. He's 3,500. We'll play a game of who's left on the Houston Texans to throw the ball to. No one. And you know what? That's cool, because Deshaun Watson's awesome this year, and he will find whoever he can find, and Kiki Kuti will be on the field, therefore he will find him. And for 3,500, I thought it was a great deal.
If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm feigning a headache. I don't feel up to this, coach. What's the point? You've taken everything. You've taken all that is good from me.
There's you, Laramie Tunsil, and that's about it. You've got a year to survive, Deshaun, before you get all your picks back. Enjoy next year, mate. Enjoy it. Who's your defense and special teams, Neil? Enlighten me.
2,500.
Oh my goodness.
It's the Matt Patricia-less Detroit Lions. Because of 2 words.
Go for it.
Mitchell Trubisky. Now, in the past, Trubisky has done most of his good work against the Lions. I think he's thrown 3 touchdowns in the last 4 times he played them. But that was when he was in some form of rhythm. Now, rhythm is a dancer, apparently. Well, it's off the dance floor when Mitchell's around this year. And I just feel that the Bears are sinking fast. And maybe, the good staff in Detroit would like to maybe say to the world, it wasn't us. We had ideas. We wanted to do things. It was the bearded git with a pencil behind his ear that was holding us back. So I'm not expecting great things from this defense, but it was cheap, and that enabled me to get a roster that I actually don't think is terrible.
I looked at who you could get, and there's a lot of teams you could pick up and whatever. I picked a middling defense who were playing the team with the person with the most interceptions and the most sacks in the NFL this year, and because I believe that if you get sacks and interceptions, you get loads of points. So I've gone for the Green Bay Packers because they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles.
Don't forget lost fumbles as well.
That was the other one, yeah. So lost fumbles,
triple crown.
Yeah, he's gone for the triple crown. Yeah. Lost fumbles, sacks and interceptions, and another 3 years and somewhere in the region of $80 million.
There was a fancy title for winning the three.
The title is.
Yeah, a fancy title for winning the three majors before they included the British Open. I can't remember what it was. It was like a Hogan Slam or something like that. Just bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves while I'm looking for.
Let's be honest. Carson Wentz stinks. This offense stinks. Somehow they're still in a playoff race. Whatever. Right now they are the worst team in the NFC East, and that's unbelievable.
Yeah. I said last week that they're a bottom three team for me because they're no direction.
Agreed.
So
agreed. It's still, we can say it, but it can still be unbelievable. While you'll find that, Neil, give us a recap of your team. So who's your quarterback?
Quarterback is off the screen. Kirk Cousins.
I've got Nick Mullins, running back 1.
Dalvin Cook.
I also have Dalvin Cook, running back 2.
Latavius Murray.
Austin Eckler, wide receiver 1.
Justin Jefferson.
I've got Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 2.
Sterling Shepard.
I've got the captain, Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 3.
Corey Davis.
Mike Williams, tight end.
Robert Tonyan.
Same. Flex.
Frank Gore.
Kiki Kuti. Defense and special teams, Neil.
The Detroit Lions.
And I've got the Green Bay Packers. You found it yet?
No, not yet.
This is great. Great thing. Where can people catch you this week, Neil?
Find me on the Twitter at ndutton13. My usual stuff, my snap count for the Ravens will be coming shortly. I have my Super Bowl odds tracker at Numberfire, my tight end streamers and tight end report at Rotoviz. The 5 facts from last week. I don't think anyone's going to read that because they just want this week to be over. That is also at Rotoviz. And yes, I will be doing the start sit on the Twitter on Sunday from 4 o'clock. So I say, if you have any questions and no one else can help you, maybe you could find me at ndutton13.
Fantastic. I am at Mainzy7 combined. Me and Neil are at waxing_lyrical. Final chance, Neil. Have you found what the heck you wanted to talk about? No. And in that note, Neil will probably tweet it out later. These top guys are out.